Welcome to the Sydney Property Muppets podcast. My name is Kurt Lawther. I'm the real estate agent, and with me forever is
Chris Clark, the buyer's agent.
Chris. You're looking fresh, you're looking fit, mate. I love being here with you. There's a couple of special announcements today.
Yeah, a couple of inaugural things. So luckily I'm looking fit now, but actually you are too. But congratulations last weekend on running your first ever marathon.
Thank you very much. Before any family members exclaim, ran the first 26 kilometres and then limped the next 16.
Completed the marathon, is that what we should have said?
I am more than happy to say I was humbled by 42 kilometres.
Now, speaking of something else completed, so this episode today is our 50th episode.
Well done. Imagine some bombs going off. Self-clapping.
Well done.
They actually say, I think the average is, or there's a rule, most podcasts don't go past 20 episodes.
Yeah, and we've doubled that and some.
And you haven't broke up with me.
That's true. Still time. So we might at the hold. If you're watching and listening, the back end of the episode today, we might capture some memories from the episode. But I think from the overall podcast. But let's get straight into this topic today.
So Chris, my topic today is it was from an experience this week, and the question is: are real estate agents dodgy for making you pay extra?
Yes. What? Was it rhetorical? I'm not sure. Okay, so you had a story. You had a story linked into this. Yeah. No, when I say yes, that's we'll get on that later on. But
so long story short, selling a property, rang someone up who inquired. They didn't quite fit the budget for my property, and then I found out that they were really mad at their real estate agent that they had just sold. They sold their property, and the agent who had sold it to them, she was very unhappy, and she heard this happen to some other people because she paid off market for an.
So this is when she originally purchased. She just sold it. We're talking when she originally
purchased. It was off market. It was an established home, and she said the real estate agent made me pay way too much for it.
Right. Okay.
And she felt very aggrieved that the real estate agent had was being very dodgy because she said she heard other examples. Now, I was waiting for the moment for there to be
dishonesty, something they'd done that was
and
unethical.
Usually that comes up in those stories, but it didn't. And so we're going to be talking today about situations where the agent hasn't lied, hasn't pulled a fast one, they've got you to pay over, and is that dodgy is the question.
I like this where this is going, because I think everyone will be listening going, unless they're selling their property, I think everyone listening will be going, yes, of course, screaming at the screen, and yeah, you guys, but let's get into it. So, off-market properties, as we know, we classify those, they're not on realestate.com or domain, typically agents utilising their own personal or their own sort of agency network.
Yep.
The dangers of it are you can be buying it without representation. Right?
Yes.
You're buying it directly off the agent, so you're not using a buyer's agent, and potentially don't have any other resources around you. The only information you're receiving about the property is from
the real estate agent.
Right, and so they know about you, right? So they're going to know what you like, what you don't like, how much you missed out on the last property for.
They've built rapport with you.
Yep. So they're going to utilise that, right? So just think about that mindset. You haven't got other people to bounce off ideas. The agent's going, this is a great property. Come over, look. I know you don't like, this place doesn't have a bath and that's not ideal, but geez, you really like the north facing. This has that. And they can also talk to you about your budget. They know that you've been, out there looking at property. Let's say just as for today's, they know you put offers out of $3 million on other properties. They will utilise that, or at least also understand their vendor's motivations or what the requirements are getting it sold, and say this needs to sell $3 million. However, it may not be.
So the surrounding sales comparable sales might say 2.7, but the vendor may have instructed that they are not selling unless they hit that $3 million mark.
Yep.
If you happen to be from the Central Coast, I know we're a Sydney-based property, but houses, I had my own experience with a family member. They were not selling unless they got 930, even though they had some offers around 900. They weren't selling unless they got 930. Now, 930 was still more than okay, but it can work for smaller margins as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, agent says to the buyer, this needs to require $3 million. And even a buyer being not represented, so they don't have that support, maybe not having a buyer's agent there, even they can probably work out that this feels a bit over. but they're also then they're swept up. Right? They've come seen the property with an off-market property. Typically, when you go inspect, you're by yourself. So you know, rather than having to get your elbows out, you're walking up and down stairs, and you've got to wait for somebody to come down the stairs before you can go up the stairs. You get the ability to sit in the kitchen, lounge, have a look around, really look at the backyard or whatever it might be, and fall in love with the property. And you might be able to come back again. You know, sometimes you come back on a Monday, you come back in on a Wednesday. That's not always the case when a property's on market to get that level of service and the ability there to have exclusive access to the property.
And I think another thing as well, the off markets and why they can seem lucrative is the scarcity of them. The fact that you've been looking for ages, months and months, and you finally got this opportunity where the property lines up, and it, seems like a good deal.
So I think when we go back to the topic, so is a real estate agent dodgy for trying to get the most out of it? I think absolutely in principle, no. They're there to do the right thing for the vendor and get the highest possible price.
Legally, their job is to get as much money from the vendor as possible.
As you said earlier on with that story, it's more about if there's a scenario where they're saying, oh, there's 7 other buyers and they're all over it, and there's not, that's unethical, that's lying.
Yeah.
But
overall, if there's no lying, and I'm going to take unethical out at the moment, because that is always a grey area where some people perceive one thing that someone does and one thing that someone else does, two different sides. But if someone hasn't broken the law, for me, and it hasn't been properly unethical, then for me, it's not. They've done their job. Their client is happy. They've managed to get them an extra $100,000 tax-free if it's an owner-occupier home, and that's their job. They're legally required to represent the vendor.
Yeah. And there are scenarios where property is off market, even with buyers agents out there, that they can be in a situation where they pay over. It couldn't feel like, let's use that same scenario. It's 2.7, they want 3, let's say they get a deal. No, it's 3 or thereabouts done. And the current market comparables, as you said, are a bit lower than that. But some buyers agents will go, yes, but there's that one property now. There hasn't been a property like that for 3 months. There may not be another one for 3 to 6 months. The market right now is probably a bit more stable, but in some markets, traditional city markets, the price is going up and up and up, as it has for the first half of this year. So they might look at that paying $50,000, $100,000 extra, going, well, in the long-term scheme, this is shelter, this is the family home, and they're not selling this property for 10 years, even potentially 20 years, is the plan.
Yeah.
So paying a little bit more at the beginning, you feel like you're overpaying, may actually not be overpaying.
Yes. No, I think that's very important to understand. If you are going to buy an off-market property, or even a property that's on the market, know your circumstances as to why you're paying the price you want to pay. Because if you need to move in 2 years, and you've even potentially paid normal price, the market may dip down a little at that time where you don't know what's going to happen. Rates could go up. So always be careful of why you're buying, what price you are paying, and not just overpaying. Because this lady, unfortunately, I didn't have the heart to tell her that. From what I can tell, the agent's done nothing wrong and has actually done the right thing for their vendor and got lots of money for them.
Yeah, I think there's that last thing on my last point would be a lot of buyers are left to be felt or feeling of the real estate agents actually on their side, right? I think real estate agents are quite good at making them feel empathy, emotional attachment, and so forth. But the agent is always getting paid solely and exclusively by the seller.
That's correct.
And not for you. That doesn't mean they're hoodwinking you, but in the end, they're there to maximise the price for you and to please their vendor.
Can I put a little twist on this?
Oh, please.
Even though it's coming out of the vendor's funds, the more I get the buyer to pay for a property, the more money I get.
Absolutely true. But also, if you don't get a deal done at all, and it's actually yes, it is. But in the end, in all theory and practicality, the money is coming out of the sellers, vendors' fund. But you're right. Yeah, of course, and that's part of the reason why your industry, in particular, real estate agencies, for the vast majority, work on a percentage basis to say to clients, the higher we sell your property, the happier you're going to be, and the more we get. The lower it sells, you still get very amount, and actually I get impacted as a real estate agent less.
Yep.
Where buyer's agent, we do work, some work on a percentage model and some work on a fixed fee model.
Yep. And I was just going to quickly say about the relationship with agents, because one thing Chris always pulls me up on is like, I trying to be straight down the line, as ethical as I can, but I do know there are lots of agents that don't play that way and also bend the rules
Name
and
them.
go over the rules. I'll out of respect, won't. But one thing, I think, if you've had a relationship with a real estate agent for a number of years...
What sort of relationship? sorry, I'm silly. Sydney Property Muppets.
For a number
Professional
of years...
relationship, yep. Go on.
It's going to make me laugh now.
I know.
For a number of years, generally that trust is going to be quite different.
Yeah.
Because that agent knows if they've found a really good property for you, that even if it's not through them, that you're more than likely actually going to come back to them because you've done such a good job in finding that good property. Where relationships often people think is when it's only been a month or two.
Yeah.
And that's where it's quite easy. Real estate agents, we talk all the time. We're charming. We know how to get that relationship.
We're charming, are we?
Very charming.
Charming.
My brothers don't agree with me. So it's very... If you are trusting a real estate agent or you're starting to build that relationship, always have in the back of the mind why they're asking certain questions, why they're doing what they're doing. But also, if you do find a real estate agent that is genuine, you can trust them. Also, don't think that they're all out there to get you. But you need to have that open mind, particularly when you're starting to build that relationship.
Yeah.
Would you disagree?
No, 100%. 100%. I think that's a really nice way of potentially sewing up the episode today. And any other final thoughts?
I don't know, 50-50. I think to sum up our 50 episodes, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, so we get in usually 3 quick cues, but today let's do a bit of reflection on these 50 episodes.
What would you say is one of the most amazing things about the podcast?
One of the things I've found most amazing is probably what the benefit of this podcast has been to me, which has really surprised me, has been more the ability that because you do it each week on a Friday, it allows me to actually reflect on the week that was.
Yep.
And really ascertain where the market is. And I actually use it as my own education tool. What about for you?
I think for me, it goes to show I've tried to start, and I'm like, sure, everyone has many different habits, like whether it's podcasts, whether it's a new routine, health routine, gym, whatever it is, and it just doesn't stick. And for me, trying to do something that is going to take time and effort has actually helped having you here, someone else to go along the journey who's committed on the same level.
And good.
And it's actually, we schedule the 4 or 5 hours out every Friday to come do it. And I've actually found, this is natural.
People listening, you do 4 or 5 hours, but your episodes are 10, 15 minutes, guys. You're doing too much. What's an area, I'll flick back to you, what's an area for improvement in the next 12 months, next 50 episodes?
I think potentially the way the audio, potentially getting an extra couple of cameras and just the editing, just to really start sprucing it up a little bit for the viewers that are actually watching this. Maybe a new head for you.
A new head for me, Jesus Christ.
What about yourself?
Improvements, I think more what I'd like to see, we've got up on YouTube alone, we've got over now 100 subscribers, so it's taken 50 episodes to get there. I'd like some exponential growth, so I'd love to get to 500 subscribers over the next 50 episodes.
Lovely.
Kind of aspirations. What else we got there?
Just a surprise. What's a surprise? I'm going to throw it back to you. What's a surprise?
What's a surprise? How much I've learnt. How much I've absolutely learned from your knowledge, and even just the way sometimes our back and forth. I think we both are learning as we're going to some degree, because you're hearing what a buyer's thinking, because I'm actually getting the scoop out of their brains and going, this is what they're actually thinking. And equally, you're like, well, here's actually what the vendors are thinking in these scenarios. And surprise. And even like some legislation, like so many learnings. What's been surprising for you?
Coffee every week. No, I think the surprise is how many viewers and subscribers we have. It's, I don't think we had any expectation that if we had 10 people watching it after so many, we wanted to help people, but to be able to get more and more viewers on, even regardless of how small, the fact it's growing, quite humbling.
Yeah.
Like in a positive way.
No, positive. Look, I think we can improve our production, but we look back at one of the first episodes the other day and we were both quite stuck. Similar format, but very, very different look and feel.
So, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it.
Raising bat, half century.
Half century, here we go. Thank you all, and on to the next century, on to the first century, I should say.
The first century, yes.
Full century. Thanks for dropping by.